we're going to reopen the meeting. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti?
Here.
Mr. Cody?
Here.
Mr. DeFranco? Mr. Donlin? Mr. Little?
Here.
Mrs. Stella? Mrs. Walsh? Mrs. Rogers?
Here.
Mrs. Minions?
Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as everybody can see, we have new mics here. Probably next week at the voting meeting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's probably a couple that we have to add on here. Yeah, definitely, we will. We have new mics, so if you want to talk, make sure you push talk. If the red light's on, your mic is still on, so when you're done talking, just make sure you push it to turn it off. Got that? And it sounds like it's going to be loud and clear here now. Much better.
Terrific.
Thank you for doing that. Okay, we're going to go right into our committee of the whole agenda. We'll start with technology.
Good evening. I have a few items for informational items on the agenda for this week. The first one is secondary school additional UPS installations. Recently, due to numerous power failures in the district, we've lost some hard drives on our camera servers, specifically in our secondary schools. These hard drive failures are due to improper shutdown of those camera servers. We recently purchased uninterruptible power supplies. What that'll do is it'll allow the servers to run on a battery backup, and then when that battery starts to deplete, it'll do a proper shutdown instead of just simply pulling the cord on it. When we put the system in place, we ended up using our UPS supplies, but what we found out after the fact, that is, the power supply can only shut down one device at a time, so we're not able to shut down multiple servers. So this should resolve it. We do not have this problem in the elementary schools because when we installed the security system in the elementary schools, they had individual battery backup supplies. We also don't need to install in a Bayshore, because Bayshore we have it that it goes to it's a backup battery and then to a generator. So the only problem really has been the secondary schools. The second item is a district-based technology reunification kit. All of our schools have a reunification kit in the event that there's an evacuation, we have to reunify. But it was recommended that the district have a district-based reunification kit. So what we did is we purchased, I guess, portable cases that will have 6 Chromebooks in it each, that we held at a constant charge in the central office location. In the event of a reunification, someone from central office will be able to grab these Chromebooks, take it, and then we'll have real-time access to student information. So as they need to be signed out, or if we need contact information, we'll have the ability to do so. If in the event that the reunification takes place where we don't have Wi-Fi access, the reunification kits will also have a MiFi access point in it as well. So if we have to reunify on a football field or anywhere that we do not have access, we will now be able to do so and have real-time access to student information. The last thing I have on the agenda for this evening is we have been selected to present at Texpo 2019 again this year. One of the presentations we'll be doing is on our internship program. We were asked to present our internship programs. So we're going to explain the reasoning, the need for it, the project the students worked on, the whole process with interviewing and application process, and we're going to even have student experiences. We're going to do a flip grid where students are going to explain what they worked on, what they liked, and what they didn't like. We're going to show it down in Texpo 2019. Texpo 2019, if you're not aware of it, is the premier technology education conference in the state. This year is being held January 31st and February 1st, and we will be presenting on February 1st at 1:30. Anyone have any questions?
Where's this going to be at?
Texpo 2019 is in Harris Convention Center, Atlantic City. Thank you.
Okay, student service officer.
He's got a good height. We're going to be making a recommendation for 18 students for home instruction. We're also going to be making a recommendation, it's not on the agenda, to accept a tuition student from Hazlet Township in one of our self-contained programs. We do have room for that. It's part of the shared services that the state looks at for districts to do with special education students and keeping them in the least restrictive environment. And we partner with different districts to do that. Couple announcements. We had to reschedule our parent presentation for autism. It's going to be January 8th at 6 p.m. In this room right here. The preschool open house is going to be January 16th at 6 o'clock at New Monmouth. And the Slam Dunk Autism Challenge is going to be on Saturday, January 19th, and it's sponsored by the High School North girls and girls basketball team, and as well as the softball team. So that'll be an all-day tournament with different teams from the Shore Conference participating in it, starting at around 9:30 till about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Okay. Any questions on student services for special ed?
No, but I do want to give the update on our parent meeting. We had a meeting with the head of Middletown Friends of Diverse Learners, like we normally do. We spent a lot of time discussing the kindergarten transition program, which is really not a special education program, but they had asked a lot of questions, and Mr. Dunn and his team went through that, how it's going to work. It did come up that we probably won't start that program until September due to it's kind of late in the year, and people are a little hesitant to transfer their kids in January. And it gives us a little bit more time staff-wise and everything to get it undergoing. One of their concerns was how we find the students to go into this program. But it also came up as a discussion under Child Find. And they were concerned that maybe we don't do enough to do Child Find. And we had that conversation that we can't make parents sign up when we do Child Find. Mr. Dunn and his group reiterated to them what we do to reach out to the community. And they made a few suggestions, and you know what, there's always room for improvement, so we're going to look at some of the suggestions, like reaching out to more preschools if we can. So if we can, reach out on that, which we do a good job of now, but we can always do better. Everybody can improve. So we're looking at doing that. We talked about the relocation of the River Plaza class and the Leonardo class, and what great feedback we got on that transition for this year. It was, a little upsetting at the end of the year for some people, but we've really gotten a lot of good feedback that the kids are fitting in, they're being accepted, they're involved in everything, and we can't ask for more than that. That was a really good transition. We talked about Circle of Friends. It is up and running in the 3 middle schools and High School South, and our goal was to get it up and running in High School North this year. So they did have to make a few changes in the middle schools on how they do that club because of the middle school schedule change. But it's all been worked out and they're up and running, so that was good. We talked about also professional development on the frontline IEP process and how our staff is being trained on that. We did come kind of to a decision. I know at our last meeting, a board member or two asked me how the transition kindergarten class fits into special ed. And it really doesn't. According to the code, and I brought the code in so I could read it to you guys. Each district board of education shall ensure that a special education parent advisory group is in place in the district to provide input to the district on issues concerning students with disabilities. So going forward, I think that we had a good discussion with our leaders on this integrated kindergarten class, but it is not a special education program. So going forward, I think we have to look at our agenda and focus it on our special education students' needs from the district, get feedback from them on what we're doing good, what we can improve on, and move forward. So I think as far as administration and the committee is concerned, the transition program we have discussed with them, and we will not be putting that on the agenda again, considering that it is not a special education issue. But we are looking forward to hearing concerns from our special education parent population on things that we could do better or things that we do good. There's a lot of things that we've gotten positive feedback on, a lot of things. And we're always looking to improve in the special education area. So if we could get that feedback from all special education parents, we would advise them to join the Middletown Friends of Diverse Learners so that your feedback can come back to the administration in our committee meetings.
Joan, is
Yes.
the integrated kindergarten, is that an intervention program? Is it tier 3?
Do you want to explain that a
No,
little?
I know, I
Well,
think
yeah.
it is a
It
part
is,
of
it's an
INRS, right?
addition, yes, it's an addition, it's an extra step to try to get our students caught up and on the program that we have provided for our kindergartners. You know, and as we said to them, if there is a need for these students to be classified or to have more interventions for classification, we're not holding back on this. This has nothing to do with prolonging any services. In fact, our goal in the district is to catch these services as early as we can so that we don't have to worry about catching up with them. We catch the kids as soon as they come in and we try to give them all the services that we possibly can provide for them according to IEPs and the IRNS program.
I just wanted to add that the Integrated Kindergarten Committee, which came, I guess it's about a month and a half ago, and shared the idea for the pilot, we're meeting again on Friday. It's not that our work has stopped or will cease. We're based upon recent information that's come out. You know, we had an aggressive goal to try to start something this year. It just may be different than what we had originally thought because of some of the things that Joan brought up, you know, which are kind of causing us to look for other ways to go about for the rest of this year prior to a full launch in September.
But it
For any
doesn't mean
current
that we're going
students.
to stop on the
No.
progress of the students that have been identified.
Right.
We're going to be working with them as the year goes along to still help them
Correct.
be ready for their first week.
Where will this class be located? In September?
We didn't really say where it was going to be located.
No.
I don't think that was ever
Right now, we had
discussed.
looked at Ocean Avenue as a possibility because there's classroom space there. And the support service, the staff that's there, we felt would be a good fit for working with that class and the teacher and students.
But it is the goal of the administration to start this class up in September. And I guess through early child find and testing, they'll be able to identify some of these kids earlier.
Have they identified any kids yet? Like, do we have any idea how many children might be in it?
For next year, no.
Well, not for next year
Not
yet. Right now, we have about 5 students across the district, 5 to 6, that we don't want to just not have any services for, you know, for the rest of this current year. So like I said, we're meeting again on Friday to come up with alternative ways in which to support those students and teachers at this time.
And they would be in Ocean Avenue, those students?
Some of them are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
For the most part, probably staying at home school.
Yes,
Oh,
for the remainder of
that's
this
what I
year.
wanted to know.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, for this year, yeah, they're going to stay
Okay.
in their home schools. Okay, thank you.
I'm also going to fill in for Ms. Walker, a little bit of a difference. I know time she's filled in for me. We're just wanting to make the board aware of a regulation that we're going to be putting in place regarding letters for students participating in extracurricular activities. Currently, it's usually for students that are participating in athletics, but it's for any after-school activities or events where there's competition, possibly such as band, chess club, DECA, anything where there's in competition. Was that dance club, anything, you know, I'm not listing them all, but it'll be anything where we're competing against other high schools. And they'll have an opportunity to gain a letter in that. There'll be a criteria set forth of participation. It'll be clear, and any advisors will have input on that as well.
Curriculum.
Usually, there is very little for us to share this month. Usually there's a lot more. We're very busy preparing for next week's presentation at the building level. We have many principals who are going to be joining us next week to highlight some of the ways in which their work with their staff and their students is supporting the district goals that we've identified for this year, as well as directors and supervisors. So we're in the midst of preparing for next week. There are some resolutions on or voting items on the agenda for next week, including curriculum committees. There's also a resolution to support and continue, and this is something we do annually, is the Monmouth County Arts Association. It's not a school function. It's the Association of Monmouth County. It's typically after-school programs that they offer for any student who has any kind of interest in areas of the arts. So it's additional ways in which our students can participate in events. We have some students who participate. It's parents. It is a parent paid for opportunity. So that is a yearly resolution that we have.
This is after the school day? Or
Yeah, sometimes they have to leave a few minutes before to get there. We don't really typically have any high school students who typically participate. It's mainly middle school students who participate.
But it's offered to the high school students.
It is, yes. We have so much that we offer here, though, I'm just going to say,
That's
at the
what I
high
was
school
wondering.
level that,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Is it
Yeah.
one of those that you'd have to transfer out, and are we doing
Yeah.
everything we can to promote the arts program that we have up there?
Yeah, and that is our first priority. And like we've discussed, we are going to be expanding the use of the new master classes to also benefit our middle school students. So this is a very short program, though. It's only a few weeks.
If you could go back to where you started with the presentations, and thank you very much for all those meetings that you are organizing right now with administration so that we can be concise but comprehensive. And to previous feedback by the board, we want to make sure that those presentations don't get too long. So we're going, we want to make sure that those presentations don't get too long. So we're going to break it up, focus on student success, right? And,
Next week, yes.
Next week, and then in January, we will continue that, so we cover a couple things that we can bring in. We feel it's really important for the community to hear the input of building level administration, as well as supervisors and directors that work directly with them, how these programs are being implemented on the building level. It really gives our school community and all the stakeholders a real deep dive of the evidence of what we're doing and how we're implementing. So we're going to do it over a series of meetings, learning from past experience, so that presentation doesn't get too long. Right, Ms. Peters?
Yes, so next week we're going to focus on the student success goals. It's a very comprehensive presentation. So then in January, we'll be looking to report out on progress towards community relations, public relations goals, as well as finance, facilities, and long-range planning. Those will be in January.
Okay.
So do we have something that people can see? Because you're going to do the presentations here, right?
We're going to do
Yes.
presentations.
So
here.
one of the challenges I always see is that knowing when things are coming. We see the agendas, but it's, some people might not be able to make it, but I think we should have a forward-looking calendar of when you estimate these things would be. Because some people might say, oh, okay, in February you're going to do XYZ. It might be easier for them to plan ahead. Because I think there's a lot of your presentations, just that sometimes people are busy during a certain week and they don't see it.
Yeah, so too, Joan shared this at our last parent information committee meeting too, that we were going to be presenting out on this. Joan and Danielle were present. It was shared publicly, and
We did it at the last meeting, too.
yeah, we did it the last meeting too.
Can't you just have a spot on the website?
That's what I mean.
It says, and to John's point about announcing something, but, let's say you're gonna do something on autism, right? First week of February to be determined, you know what I mean? It gets people's interest going.
I should clarify.
They know it's coming, but they're not sure when, but you can't be pinpointing yourself to a date, and then you need to change it.
And it's a good point. One spot they can go to and say, okay, let me see what's coming up in the next
Okay.
couple months. Might be easier. And pick, like I said, we don't have to let them
We'll
miss
try as
everybody
best
else,
as we
right?
can to stay in that.
We have to check too, because we did ask EdPIC to put it on the website, so I'm gonna check the individual school websites too and see if it's not on there
Well, they
already.
have a calendar.
No, they have events, notice of events, upcoming events that they put on. Most school websites have a list of upcoming events, and you could go on it and see what's coming up, so I want
These
to make
events
sure
are
that
included
they're
in
on
it.
there. Well, that's what we're gonna find out. We did ask that we advertise this stuff. So we'll have to see, how many schools have it on there, and if they don't, we could get it on there too. Because most parents will go to their home school website. They're not really going to the district unless there's a big issue. But if they're going to their home school website and it's under that list of activities, then we're covered. But if it's not, we have to find a way to make sure this stuff gets on there.
And we'll make sure it's out on social media too. But
Yeah,
that's not your
definitely.
point. Your point
Yeah.
is getting it out earlier.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And December is a busy month.
have a couple of items under policy for this month. There'll be first readings on two policies that we're looking to revise. One of them is policy 9210, parent organizations. We had discussed that our current version of this policy included some additional requirements for gathering fundraising information, so forth, that as a administrative team and with the finance committee, we discussed that we are not utilizing that information. We are not getting 100% compliance with this, but it's not something that we really utilize for any specific purpose. We don't oversee the parent organizations. I think at this point in time, we were looking to revise our policy back to what Strauss Esme recommends the policy be, and simply take out of our policy the paragraph that was inserted several years ago about getting this fundraising activity, and just stick to the policy as Strauss Esme was recommending it, which was not mandating the gathering of this specific information, but just giving the general policy guidelines for parent organizations. So you have the revised version of that policy and regulation in your packet, and we are proposing that for a first reading. The second policy, which we're looking to reserve, is actually something that we found in doing a review. We were looking up some things in our office about a week or so ago, and we happened to look at the policy for our reserve accounts, which are the accounts that we keep, we're allowed to keep per state administrative code for specific things. We've talked about it when we talk about the budget, the capital reserve, maintenance reserve, and so forth. Our current policy of dealing with reserve accounts only deals specifically with capital reserve. Now, we are allowed to, and the code provides for the maintenance of other types of reserves. And when we went back and looked at Strauss Esme, they had since updated this policy from when we had put it in place in 2006 to include all reserve accounts and the information related to that. So the information in the proposed new policy just includes the other types of reserve accounts in addition to capital reserve that the district can maintain. So we do need to update this policy. Our current policy doesn't include everything it should include, so we are recommending that for a first reading as well. Yes?
I noticed that on the agenda, you did not include the one on.
Right, because we started talking about it after we had posted this agenda. So instead of making new copies for tonight's meeting, I wanted to update the board that it will be on the agenda for next week as a first reading. But you do have the policy in your pack. You did get the policy.
Back on the parent organizations, I mean, is the whole policy 1, 2, 3 paragraphs and that's it?
Yes.
Okay, now here's the question. So who controls these organizations, and how do we know that they're accountable and they're not, they're not using the funds for something else other than student benefits?
They are not school district accounts. They are established as separate entities.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have their own bylaws and their own reporting. They do not funnel any of their monies through our school accounts, so we're not seeing the activity that they do.
So do we have any oversight over these groups at all then?
They are
None?
they are independent entities. The only oversight that we have over the fundraising is we do still require them to, for example, if a PTA or PFA is going to hold a fundraiser, they let our office know, or they let the central administration know what it is to make sure it's an activity that is appropriate, but we don't have any oversight over their funds and so forth. But for example, we wouldn't want, I'm going to be really extreme, but you wouldn't want the PTA running a bar hopping tour or something to raise money. We would not approve that as an approved activity. But so it's really the type of activity that would be allowed is what we are giving approval.
So let's say you have a group that goes out there and does X amount of fundraising, all right? And can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay.
I was waiting, I was going to chime in after you.
You have a group that goes out there and fundraises, and let's just use the Touchdown Club, okay? They run a dinner for the weekend and they generate $5,000 in income, right? So they pay off their bills, they pay off their dinner, they now have $5,000. One, I understand you're saying we have no oversight on how they spend their money, but what happens then if the people that are members of that group are going, what happened to the $5,000? Are we not obligated at all to respond to that? We're not, it's not our problem, period? None of these groups are our problem?
Yes.
Well, correct, it's not your problem. They are a separate autonomous organizations, plural. In many respects, they may be registered as 501c3 nonprofit entities, and the IRS regulations forbid and prohibit the governmental entity from having control over that outside entity. You see that with foundations. The foundation can't be directly controlled by the governing body of the school district. So even if they're not formally recognized and organized under the nonprofit codes, they still are separate organizations. Typically, over the use of facility requests and approvals, there's really no oversight that you have or really want to have those organizations.
So a parent complaint about a specific group, it's just not our business.
It's not your business from the standpoint you have no jurisdiction or no control to remedy the complaint other than perhaps.
But there's no
relaying
reason to
information.
respond, right? There's no reason to respond to it. They should take it up with their own organization.
They should, but what I was also going to say, that may impact your partnership with that group going forward. If they're, while they're not a direct representative of the Middletown Public Schools, you may not want to partner with organizations that may not be on the up and up. And that may extend to use of facilities, that may extend to, joint advertising and marketing, whatever the event may be. So you can pick and choose who your friends are.
Now, I think one of the things on the 501c that we do have to have is that we have insurance that we provide to these organizations. So with them under our insurance policies, we normally say that a 501c has to give you documentation that one, they are a nonprofit, that they are in good standing with the state, that they have filed their returns to prove that they've raised money. Not that we need to see it, but they do have to file that with the district to say, okay, we know that they're a legit organization. So are we abolishing that right here in this new? Because it did, before it said that we had to, parent organizations or fundraising and reporting forms. That was part of the reporting forms to the district. So I don't think we can do away with that if they're organizations that are recognized under our insurance policy, because we have to make sure that they are 501c's and that they are legitimate organizations.
We have discussed this with our insurance broker as far as, the arrangement that we afford them, that, our liability policy would extend to their activities, and they have advised us that they don't want to see any of this paperwork, any of this financial information. It's not something that they would require us to do.
No, I'm saying us as a district, not the insurance company. I'm saying
But
we are providing them insurance, but we have to make sure that they're a legitimate organization flying under our flag, even though that they are a different entity. And I agree, that's their fundraising. They keep their own booklets, they have their own bylaws, but we do have to have some kind of
I was asking Amy about we're not like purchasing a separate policy to cover that organization. It's no different than a member of the audience here, if they trip and fall in the library here and get injured, they may be covered by the district's insurance policy. So it's not like we're getting separate coverage for them in their private activity. It's just while they're engaged in activities on our property, we have coverage for them. And it may be denied in certain instances if they are at fault. So I just don't want it to be perceived that you're spending extra public dollars for.
No, I'm not saying that we are, but what I am saying is that we recognize each one of these, we actually send them out a form that they have to fill out, they have to show us that they are an organization for us to recognize them, and also we have to put them attached to our policy, which we do every year.
No, actually, what I'm saying is that we've had discussions with our broker, and they don't require that. We were doing it as a practice, but they told us that they
So
really
we're gonna
didn't
do
do
away with
anything.
that also.
Right, when we have, we're not doing.
But what I'm saying, we're gonna do away with that
Yes.
also?
Yes.
So we're not responsible for fraud?
If I recall correctly, this, I think, came up at the first meeting I think I attended with this board. And it had to do with, I guess, some athletic programs in other towns. There was some report in the Asbury Park Press, I think it was. And I think the question wasn't really a directive or expectation to implement this. The question that came up from the board was whether the board wanted to, from a policy standpoint, whether the administration should be responsible from a day-to-day administration standpoint in compliance with a policy that was adopted, be charged with compiling this data, this information, almost being the auditor for the nonprofit. And I think the question or concern that was raised was whether that was not just necessary, because we wanted, you can have it as a board, but whether it was kind of outside the lane of what's legally required from this district, and whether it would create added, just burdens, quite frankly, and or liability if your administration missed something that arguably was or wasn't in their paperwork, and now you're kind of commingled with the fraud, for lack of a better term. So it's almost like, just be careful what you ask for in terms of assuming responsibilities.
I guess my question is that then we have no responsibility, apparently.
In this
So
regard,
so they can just run amok, so to speak. That's you know, I just think that as you see in other districts and in other types of organizations, bowling leagues, etc., things go missing, things happen, and I don't. If our policy is being reduced to 3 small paragraphs that don't really say very much, that we're totally out of loop. That
well,
it's not our fault. Don't worry about it.
this is your policy. You're the board. You can add or delete wherever you want to this policy, as long as it's not contrary to the law. So if you want to keep these requirements, then you need a majority vote.
And I'm also going to put my auditor hat on for a minute because, I was an auditor.
Having a hat?
Right. And just because we had this language in our policy and there were organizations giving us paperwork with numbers on it and so forth, we really would have no idea whether that was valid or not. We're not asking them for their bank statements, we're not asking them for any other type of financial verification. So it sounds like we're doing more than what we were actually doing. I mean, we would have no idea whether the numbers that are being given to us are accurate, correct, or not.
Then
So
what-
it gives people a false sense of security.
Then should we be treating them as a business? Should we be treating them so that they pay rent? Do they use our facilities? They hire our custodians, et cetera? They can pay for everything?
I don't think, no, that's not what we're
I think
recommending.
they do hire our custodians,
Well, they
I mean,
do.
our security and stuff.
If
are
there's,
awesome.
yes, if they need custodians beyond when they're there already to service the building, which doesn't happen very often.
And we're not saying they're not stakeholders, they're stakeholders. This is our school community and they're stakeholders. What we're saying
But
is
we're not
that.
stakeholders. We're not really partnering with them at all.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely we are, because we're giving them the opportunity to utilize our facilities, and they do a lot of really good work for our students, and they do a lot to, enhance the school community. The issue is that the expectation has never been that they were directly beholden to us with administrative responsibilities, because they're not the Leonardo school. They're the Leonardo school PTA, let's say, as an example, right? So there is an expectation that there is going to be autonomy in the decision-making of how they, what priorities they set. Of course, they work with the principal, and we ask that they do, and they set those priorities, but it's not the same oversight as the budget for the Leonardo school, nor was it the expectation that it should be. And that's why, quite frankly, our policy consultant, who is the state expert on this, is saying that to stay to those 3 paragraphs so that you can be transparent in exactly what your role is, and so you don't assume additional responsibility.
Can I ask a question? And I don't know if I asked Amy or Leslie this, I just want to know, from what I'm hearing from both of you saying, it seems like with this wording that was in here, almost we were like liable that if something went wrong. Because we were saying, file these papers, show us the papers, whatever. And if something went wrong, well, we were part of it because we knew what was on the papers. Even if we didn't know what was on the papers, even if we weren't going through the papers or anything. This way, we take ourselves a little bit out of the picture so that it's a thing that's a PTA group, but it's not our, the monies are not ours. We don't have any hands in the money. We don't do anything with it. So in a way, we're protecting the school district. Am I right? Or am I saying it wrong?
No, that's part of what I just
No, I
said.
mean, Lester, you can.
Is that what?
You can clarify
That's what I'm
that.
saying.
I don't
That's what
think-
you, okay,
But
I didn't
you
even
said
grasp it
You
from
just
what you
stated
said.
more simplistically, which is always better, especially when we're videotaping.
So we're better
So,
off
you
in
know what I
a
mean,
way. This
right?
is better for our
Yeah.
school district wise.
But back to Mike's question, who is liable then? I think that's.
The
Your
PTO.
Okay,
And
so.
the parents, I guess,
The
the
president
PTO.
of CCW.
Or the touchdown club.
And the people that are in that group better watch what's going on, because they fundraise for the money.
Their treasurers are supposed to be bonded.
I mean, they
Right.
have.
So if something happens to that money, that person is,
But how do you even
Something we
apply?
weren't
It
enforcing
doesn't even
anyway.
tell me how to become a PTO.
We don't do that. That's an
But-
organization, but the PTO is an PTO, PFA, not PFA, PTO, they are
They said-
organizations that are nationally known, and they have rules. It's almost like being a scout, or
But-
they have rules they have to
But they're
follow.
gonna show up, on our agenda to approve to be the insurer of those organizational activities, so to speak. But I don't even know who the organizations are because the policy
They
doesn't tell me.
registered. They registered.
But they don't, none, according to the policy, there's nothing about registering.
But the policy, our policy is just for our policy. It's not for what they, it's to protect us, this policy.
It's just, in looking at this policy, I mean, there's nothing in this policy 9210 that grants the board or empowers the board to grant recognition powers of these groups. So it's not like they have to apply to you to be the
So then why
Middletown
do
parent.
it?
Because
Well,
I know we govern.
It's, from a policy standpoint, this is not inconsistent with the goals and objectives of the district to set forth publicly that you recognize the partnership and support of outside organizations that are interfacing and interacting with your school community, with your children, parents, or the extended community. So this is really a very generic policy. Again, just like any private vendor that does business with your organization, you don't get the tax returns of your food service company. So if they embezzle money, then the employee or the parent sues them. You don't get the tax returns of the janitorial company. Well, I shouldn't say that because you have in-house.
I'm not
Maybe
asking,
it's-
not asking for
but-
tax returns. All I'm saying to you is that something happens within these organizations. I've always felt that we as a Board of Ed, since we recognize them, since we put them on our agenda, since we condone their activities, that somehow in one way or another being partially responsible for things they do.
You know,
But
for instance,
you're saying no.
if I may, like, again, you get use of facility requests. You know, an organization wants to use the gym to host a basketball fundraiser. You're not condoning how they operate their business.
Recognize.
You're just recognizing that they're a community event, whether they're paying the fee or you're waiving the fee, they're using your facility. And they're either providing an additional certificate of insurance as an additional insured that they're purchasing, you know, for $200 through their broker, or you're adding them, you're recognizing them under your umbrella. There's no oversight or responsibility that you have. And I think the further you go in terms of trying to manage their affairs, you create that relationship per se where if someone is harmed, they may have standing not just to sue that entity, but somehow impute liability and responsibility to the Board of Education. So-
Just like recreation, if I may, like recreation, you know, of course, recreation, there are students, there are families, there are community members. We've always said, you know, from my perspective, that the facilities and the schools belong to the community. Yes, the board, the governance is the Board of Education, no question about that, but that's all part of the partnership we do with recreation, but yet we have no direct oversight over recreation.
It also says that we would, they can't organize school-sponsored activities or solicit money in the name of the school district without prior approval of the Board of Education.
Yeah.
So are we holding that to the fire?
Yes, we,
So
all
nothing
fundraisers are
happens-
approved.
Nothing will happen between now and next week without us knowing that? You know, nothing can happen, nothing can happen until we've approved it?
Yeah, the fundraisers, all fundraisers are approved through Mrs. Walker's office, yes.
Right, it's not the
But
board,
then
it's
again,
it's
well,
not the board that approves.
I'm just
it.
asking, because this policy's got 3 paragraphs in it, there's
Right.
nothing to it.
Well,
the other
it al-
thing-
It always did have these 3 paragraphs, but just with the addition of this financial information, that's what we're looking to
They
take
went
out.
from 4
But
paragraphs.
if
to
they were
3.
recognized under our flag as an organization, if someone wanted to go right now under this policy and the old one, the two differences are, I can start an organization tomorrow called the Middletown Middle School Fundraising, go on out there, do it, say that I'm sanctioned by the Middletown School District, and go start fundraising. Now, if anyone was to call up here and ask, are they sanctioned, are they a legitimate fundraiser for your district, we wouldn't know, we would say, we don't know, we have no liability of anything. I mean, the one thing that we really should be doing is that in our policy, is recognizing that they are a 501c. I mean, these are the things that we did in the past. We recognized that they were a 501c. We had them as that, they came to the board for approval, for sanction under the board. And then if anyone was to call, not that we're looking at their tax records, we're not looking at what they're doing with their money, but we still have to have some kind of a oversight over these organizations, that nobody can just pop up with one and say, I'm a fundraiser for Middletown School System.
But how would we verify all their taxes?
Well, the only thing is that if you file like we did in the past, you file your paperwork with the district, that you are a
This paperwork didn't
501c.
help, but that doesn't prove anything.
No, it doesn't prove it, but at least we know, and then we have a board meeting, and you're saying we're doing away with that too, is that we, every year, would go, the Middletown High School North Booster Club, the Middletown High School South Touchdown Club, the, soccer leagues, and all those leagues, we would say, yes, they're sanctioned, they are 501cs, and we are giving them authorization to do fundraising throughout our district.
So just if I may, we're kind of saying a lot of different things. All good points, but we have to kind of compartmentalize them, because the conversation started with the language that's being recommended to be stricken from the policy, which deal more so with accounting, a summary of financial accounting of each event. It says at the end of each event, they will submit a report of the financial activity. That's where we started the conversation. Then we got into whether the board could or should require a certification, a box being checked. Yes, we are recognized as a 501c3. That language is not in your current policy. So if you wanted to add that language, you could. And to your point, I agree that there is no requirement for the administration or the board to investigate whether in fact their records are up to date. But if and when something happens and they're not up to date, they may be liable for perjury or something, but at least you've checked the proverbial box and said we asked the question. But again, that's separate from the language that's being suggested to be stricken.
Well, I haven't read the whole policy, only because we just saw it tonight, which I will read it. But in the past, I'm only going by what we did, and that the records that we would keep was the, reporting forms. If you look at the old policy, it's not just the reporting forms, there's a whole standard protocol that you would have to file and we would have to follow and this and that. I understand some of them you're gonna take out, I understand, well, it says here we're abolishing them all. So I just don't understand why we would do that.
Do we actually enforce it though?
No.
I mean, because I have to agree, like, jumping into that and sort of verifying whether they're up to date on the 501c3 is, like, I think that's well beyond what we need to do. One thing we did, I think this came up in the finance committee a little bit, was that maybe we want these organizations to have a representation to us saying, by the way, we are, whatever organization we are, and we're just in writing, because I think collecting financial data that you're not reviewing or have the ability to validate puts you in a very weird spot, and it gives maybe parents, if we do what you're saying, which is fine, we're gonna have to really go in there and sort of be very clear what we look at in those documents.
Well, I think one of the things that we have, and if you looked at one of the standard forms that they would fill out every year, just that we would do it prior to each year of our renewal of our insurance, and it would say recognized by our insurance, they would have to fill out a form. And that form would actually, all of the copies.
So it's their representation.
Well,
They would sign
the
up saying
form was
we
like,
are.
ask for this, and this documentation, and they provided, because if you didn't provide it, you weren't on that list for the board to recognize you.
But we never followed that for everybody. Some people handed it in, some
Right,
people
and the
didn't.
insurance company's not requiring it, and
Yeah, I don't-
the regulation that we had in place didn't say anything about verifying.
Well, I don't know
tax
how much we
filings,
followed it,
anything
because
like
that wasn't my job to do, but I just know that we did it
Well,
every
it's
year.
not that we asked for things and we would not get compliance from all groups, and you would continue to ask and we just would not get compliance, and so, I don't.
And we
I
wouldn't
wanna
recognize them,
represent
we wouldn't recognize them from the reasoning that I know. We weren't recognizing them because we would actually say, okay, well, this person wasn't on last month because they didn't file their paperwork, but now we have it all, so we're gonna recognize them as an authorized.
Well,
That's
as
not
Lester
really
said,
true.
this is,
Fundraiser.
as
That's not
Lester
true.
said, the policy is obviously the board's prerogative. The reason that we're suggesting or recommending a revision in this policy is because the paragraphs that are in here, like Mr. Taylor said, that talk about just gathering semi-annual financial information and an annual summary. First of all, we were not getting all those from all groups, and secondly, they really didn't mean anything to us, so there really was no reason for us to be collecting that. Like Mr. Taylor said, there's other things that you want to put in place. That's the board's prerogative, but that's
Right.
not what our policy says, it's not what we're doing now. What we were doing now is what we're trying to do now, is what was in the policy, and what we're saying is that's not really effective.
No, I understand where you're taking it out, but before we just abolish everything, as that says abolish, let's look at it a little bit
The only thing that was in the
more.
regulation that's being
No, I
abolished was,
understand. I
the
understand.
regulation just spelled out that.
Right, we don't wanna be,
reporting
we don't
form.
wanna
It
be
didn't say
responsible
anything
for their
about
fundraising efforts.
certifications or anything
Okay,
like
I
that.
agree. But let's not just do away with it.
I agree that we should abolish this. I don't think there is no, so we're not doing the actual, I think giving us less liability is very important. The only thing I would add is I try to always look at things from the perspective of a parent, how they would look at even this conversation, is that I think there's an expectation with parents, there certainly is with me, that when I donate to the PTA, there's some kind of oversight with the school. So what I would suggest is putting some kind of addition in this with some kind of language requiring these PTAs, these touchdown clubs, whatever these groups are, that they have to put out some kind of liability statement at the beginning of the year. So when you join a PTA meeting, somewhere on the literature that they hand out has to say, we are a separate entity, we don't answer to the board, something, I don't know the correct language off the top of my head, but something letting the parents know that they should lower their expectation, that it's not, your expectation should not be that the Board of Education has oversight over these monies or these funds or anything you decide to donate when you donate your money. That you're donating it to this specific cause, because I don't know that people really understand that. Because I think when I go to donate money to the Touchdown Club, I assume there's some oversight by the Board of Ed that they can't take that money and do whatever they want. That
So
I should.
quantifying that. to be
Yeah, that's
transparent.
all because.
And maybe the other thing we could do is just include the steps that all fundraiser approvals must go through in the regulation. I don't think that would be the policy, but in the, through the school district and, because that we do approve, we do have fundraiser forums, and it is our expectation that they are gonna go through the school district if they're gonna use our facilities to let us know exactly what their fundraiser is. We just don't oversee the monies. And to make sure, as Amy said, the fundraisers are appropriate.
And even maybe outline, have each of these clubs be forced to outline what the process is if you have a complaint. If I look at, I keep saying this because it's the first one that pops in my head, there has never been an issue as far as I know, but if I look at the Touchdown Club and I donate $200 and all of a sudden I see the person who's running the Touchdown Club in one of these things walking around with a new $200 watch, like, is there a process? Is there a process for me to say, yeah, I'm not sure they're using the money where they're supposed to use it. Who's responsible for that?
So, just, I guess, you have about as much right to dictate their bylaws as they have to dictate your bylaws, because they're separate autonomous organizations. So I don't know how far we can go or how far we'll get by trying to compel modification of their organization documents and their procedures. But as I mentioned earlier, you can pick your friends, so to speak. And so there's language, for instance, the board relies upon parent organizations to operate in a manner consistent with public expectations for the schools and reserves the right to withdraw recognition from any parent organization whose actions are inimical to the interests of the pupils of this district. Now, on the one hand, the word recognition probably shouldn't be there because, as I said earlier, you're not recognizing them officially per se. But if they run afoul of what your standard of morals are, what your standards of financial responsibility and accountability are, then don't partner with them or don't allow them to use your facilities in the future. There's language in the second paragraph that talks about, when they're raising funds or conducting pupil activities in the name of the school district. So every time they have a fundraiser, it might not be in the name of the district per se. They might have a football fundraiser at a bar or something under the banner of their organization, but it might not necessarily be in the name of the district. So I think you're concerned when they're doing things that are really tied to you, and it can be the responsibility of the district to make those statements like you're doing now in a public forum, on the record, on TV. You can do it on your website. You can, when you're partnering with them, ask them to put that on there. If they refuse, then guess what? Maybe we won't be partnering with you in our gym next time you ask. That's all. So I think everything you're saying are all valid points. If you want to throw them in the policy, right now the only thing that's being suggested, none of which we're really talking about, are the lines here. Everything else you're saying, guess what? Kick it to the policy committee. Let's throw it in there. And
We are the policy committee.
Well, as a whole now, okay. Well, you can, I'm sorry.
Now, can I ask you a question? What should we do now, if we have, at the high school south and high school north, we have a snack stands, and they serve hot dogs and hamburgers and this and that. We have the equipment in there is ours. We allow certain clubs to use that to sell on our property. Now, we have no recognition over them. We have no control of anything to do with the money that comes in there from this new policy we ever stated. Now, should we be renting them that facility?
You don't have control now. I mean, under this current policy, you don't have control over what they sell, how they sell,
Well,
etc.
no, but we did have them filing that they were 501Cs and this and that. My whole thing is that they're not collecting tax, they're not doing, so we always knew that they were recognized 501Cs. Now you're telling us that we don't even need to know that they're 501Cs or not.
Well, where is that? That's not in your, that's not here.
We're not collecting that information, that's not our policy.
Can we?
All this says right here is, I'm sorry, all this says right now, in a nutshell, is if you have a fundraiser, you're supposed to give us a report of how much money you raised. That's basically all this says.
Well, it was a yearly too. It was a yearly.
Well, it's yearly, but yearly, so you give us an accounting of how much money you raised, and I guess I'll read it. It says a semi-annual summary financial report, which provides an end-of-event report, that's what I was talking about, for each activity, and is signed by an authorized representative of the parent organization, and is submitted to the superintendent. So, okay, they had a hot dog stand, and they tell you they sold 8 hot dogs. And then now you're gonna have parents saying, wait a minute, I bought 9, and they bought 10, so now they're lying, so now you gotta be involved in their audit as a school district. I mean, what are you accomplishing, or what are you trying to accomplish by requiring that information? Your point about being a certified or registered 501c3 isn't in the policy now. Now, it may have been if it's in a regulation, which the administration was requiring, then it can stay there. Or again, you can make a motion to amend this policy to include a requirement that every applicant or every parent organization certify they're a 501c3 organization. Then you're gonna have 5 other organizations who are gonna say they don't have the money and or the legal resources to certify. So are you saying we can't contribute and give back to our community? And that's a decision that you as a board have to make as to if you wanna
Because we used to
recognize
send
informal
out a thing
organizations.
about what was your registered number by the state for your 501, this and that, so that's.
Our insurance company doesn't require that, and we were only doing that for the purposes of the insurance company, and they have.
No, I'm just saying, I just know that we did it in advance, that's all, I got the document.
Amy, when we approve all these groups, we're sending them a letter every year asking them if they want to be on the approved district list, right? That's how we get them.
We check with them, yes.
Right. But we never cross-reference the paperwork that they hand in to reapprove them. We just reapprove them every year as long as they want it to be.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
It's
Any other
So they still have to be approved every year. We're just talking about the paperwork.
Yeah.
So
They
still
have to be,
submit that.
they get approved every year. And with the fundraising policy, and it's been reiterated, I know it's been talked at PIC and it's been talked at through PTA meetings, if they want to have a fundraiser, they have to submit that form to central office, I guess it's Mrs. Walker's office. She'll look at it, make sure it's appropriate, sign off, and then that gives them permission to send out advertisements and flyers for them to advertise it. So the district is approving their fundraisers, and they're approving them under our insurance thing, but that's about as far as it goes. Anybody else? Okay, moving on to facilities.
So under facilities, we are having a facilities committee meeting on Monday, so we're not going to be doing a whole report out of tonight's meeting because we'll have our committee meeting on Monday, but I just wanted to update the board on the continuing progress on our ESIP projects. At this point in time, as far as the solar panel or the solar PPA goes, we have the panels have been energized with electricity at every school except for Bayshore and the 2 high schools and Harmony. They're still working out some things there, but they still are projecting that those will be turned on by the end of this month. We have another meeting with them next week, but those are the only schools that they have left to energize. So that progress is moving along. As far as the HVAC work goes, right now they're in the process of balancing the units. The units are, as we reported out, they're installed, they're connected, the controls are connected, they're balancing the operation of those units. There's been a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks as far as the controls and in that area, so that work is continuing. They're working on other punch list items as well. And the lighting is continuing at the secondary schools. Actually, I saw on my way out tonight, there was a crew there working at Bayshore, putting up lighting in the stairwell that goes down from the central office. And there's also some punch list items in the elementary schools, but that work is nearing completion as well. We'll have a further update next week when we have our construction meetings.
And facilities meeting is Monday night?
Monday night at 7, it's at High School South.
And will you guys be discussing how much it costs to run each building? I know we had talked about getting a breakdown on that.
We're not going to be talking about that facilities. We had talked about that in finance, and what we had talked about was providing the board with the breakdown that we had to do with our audit report, dividing up costs by school, which is something that we're now required to do, and will be also reported as part of the school report cards, so we can take a look at that information. But that was something we were going to be doing, that we'll be doing in the finance committee. So when we have our next finance meeting, we can do that.
Thank you.
Amy, maybe you can answer one question. We had an issue with the elementary schools with the air conditioning units. I just want to ask now in the winter, before it becomes May and June when we need them, did we get those parts in for those units?
We did, and they're working on the repairs, and we're also looking at, as part of next year's budget, the possibility of having some type of preventative maintenance contract on those units. As we've talked about, those units are now getting around the 11, 12-year mark as far as age. We haven't had a lot of issues with them up till now, but now we're starting to see that, so it's probably time to implement some sort of maintenance contract on those to keep them in better shape running until they reach the end of their life. So yes, we're making repairs, and we're also, we've been working to get more parts in-house, so we can get the repairs done quicker, and then also maybe have some type of preventative maintenance going forward.
Good. All right, thank you.
Okay, finance.
Finance, we did have a meeting. Mr. DeFranco is the chair of that committee. He's not here this evening. I don't know, do you want to report that, Mr. Little? Would you like me to do it, Mr. Liz also, or Mrs. Rogers, or?
No, go ahead.
All right, so I don't want to talk to others, but we covered a few things. We had a very in-depth conversation, discussion with Brown and Brown on the health insurance status of the marketplace and options that we're looking at going into next year's renewal and forward. We had discussions about looking at HIF, self-insurance, what we would look at like right now based on our claims experience for a fully insured renewal. Our experience has been relatively favorable up to this point, so it puts us in a good position to look at a couple of different options. I know Brown and Brown shared the results of a survey that had been done with other districts that are part of the Bayshore Jointure as far as what they would feel about participating in a HIF. We did go over those results. We also talked about, I know Brown and Brown asked whether the board was interested in extending a survey to the other boards of those districts. We had extended the survey to the business administrators and the administrative team. I don't know if we're going to move forward with that. I think a lot of discussion centered upon the fact that in a lot of these scenarios, Middletown would be such a big player within that fund that it's most likely going to be not something that would give us a lot of benefit versus looking at just self-insuring ourselves as a unit or looking at other options. So we will continue to explore that and gather information. I know they're going to come back and talk to the board at some point in the near future before we get into our renewal in earnest for next year and go
That'll
from
be
there.
a committee of the whole.
Yes, yes. We also talked about some preliminary budget projections right now, just in the area of revenue. At this point in time, we're in, well, I would say, probably not quite neck deep, but pretty deep in our budget information gathering on the school side and the department side, and we've been having meetings with the principals, and we will be continuing to meet with departments and to identify needs, but so we don't have a total picture on that side yet, but on the revenue side, we can project out pretty much where we're going to be at in the various scenarios, because we know what our tax levy is, we know we can calculate a percentage increase on that tax levy. We also have, based upon the information that's been given on the state aid, we're estimating how much more we are going to lose for next year. I mean, based upon the information we have, we know it's probably going to be a little over $400,000 additional that will come out of our state aid, in addition to the almost $1.2 million we've already lost for this year. We also know that we don't have any surplus to roll into this budget from prior years, and we have a minimal amount left in our capital reserve to use against any future projects. So based upon that, projecting out how much revenue we could possibly generate, and that would dictate the constraints of what we would be able to put on the expenditure side of the budget. We just went over with the committee the fact that even if the tax levy went up a full 2%, which would be the maximum that we would be allowed to go up without using a waiver or something like that, we would only be able to generate about $375,000 more in revenue than we're currently generating right now because of the losses in the other areas. So what that would mean would be that would be all the money we would have available to offset increases in salary costs and benefits and other areas that go up each year. So that's something that we're going to be struggling with going into the budget process, realizing that a 2% increase in the tax levy with the loss of the other revenue is basically a whole even. We do have the board, or the finance committee talked about the fact that we do have bank cap available from last year's budget because we did not go up 2% next year, we went up 1.24%. So we have $1,059,000 left that we did not utilize in last year's budget that if it was needed to fund things in next year's budget, could be utilized. Just so, to give a comparison on how much that would be with the bank cap and the 2% tax levy, the total then would be about $1.4 million of additional revenue to fund against all of these other increases that would happen in our budget as a normal operation. The revenue that we generated last year, or for this year's budget, with a 1.24 tax levy increase, and the $1.5 million that we had in capital reserve that we were able to use in the current year's budget was about $2.3 million. So it just shows you the difference between what we had available to us for this year's budget versus what would be available to use in next year's budget. And again, we exhausted that capital reserve, so we have a very minimal amount left in capital reserve this for this year. So that's, you know, an overview of where we stand on the revenue side. We are on, working on, putting together all the priorities, and we've been meeting with the principals, and one of the recurring themes from all the principals is they each come in and are citing things that they would like to see either fixed or improved in their buildings. Facilities seems to be a big topic with all of the building leaders, and so we are compiling a list of things. And not only, and in addition to the things they're bringing up, we have things on a district level that we've talked about need to be addressed that we haven't been able to put significant monies towards, such as parking lots and continuing to remove old floor tile, things like that. So, sorry, John.
Yeah, when do we start doing those meetings, the whole, do we start doing that in January?
Usually in January. I think last year we had our first meeting, maybe the middle of January, to give an overview of what we knew so far, and then we continued to meet in February, and I guess.
So the finance committee is going to be the whole, probably starting.
Once it comes to the
So
budget,
through
yeah.
through May, right?
Definitely.
We normally get our state aid. Now, last year we didn't receive our state aid allocation until the middle of March. The governor pushed it back a few weeks,
Right.
but we have enough information, unless they totally switch course on what they're doing, we can ballpark where we're going to be, unless there's a significant change in funding. The only thing that I think would impact our funding is if they didn't put, the two things that drive how much state aid you get are what they calculate your allocation's going to be, how they, formulate that. But then the biggest driver is how much money's in the budget, in the state budget to allocate. So if they decide to drop the amount of funding in the state budget for schools, that would also impact our allocation. So that we don't know at this point. But we can only go based upon what we've been told with the information that was put out with S2 and so forth. So it's going to be a challenge, and we've been talking to everybody as a central administrative team about how it's very important for us to be able to, in order to add things to the budget that we need, such as new curricular adoptions or facilities improvements and other things, that we are going to have to really find ways to reduce the costs of other items to make room for them. So that's where we're at right now. So we talked about that in our finance meeting. We also talked about an option that we were looking at as far as ACES, that's our utilities consortium, and looking at that. And then we talked about what we just previously talked about, the policy 9210.
So are we, in terms of the building level information, is that going to be in January when we do the whole, or is Nick going to look at that? There might be other components after we look at that piece. Basically, it's just trying to take the overall budget, right, just high level pieces, trying to break it down into more digestible pieces, like where we're going to go. Are we going to review that before, or is that going to be meeting in January? How do you envision that? Is Nick going to look at it, or?
I wouldn't imagine that we would be giving it to one board member.
No, well, he's the chair. I meant.
Right.
He might look at it and say, "Oh, this is really not good. This is like a regulatory form. Might not be helpful."
I think the intent was to show what we have prepared already, and then figure out if there's other specific information that the.
To the finance committee.
Yes.
Okay, so there might be another finance committee before.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay,
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
Anything though that comes down to start planning the budget, it should be committee of the whole.
Right, but specific finance items probably just doing regular committee.
Okay, that last year, we wanted to.
Yeah, it's trying to figure out what it is.
Amy, can you explain the equalization, how that helps with the state funding? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier.
Well, when you say equalization, that's just a component of our state aid. And that part of our state aid is calculated based upon where we talked about the whole concept of when the aid was adjusted several years ago, back in 2010. There were certain hold harmless provisions that were in there, and that the enrollment was locked in at a certain point, and that wasn't really changed up until they now rearranged the allocations with S2. So I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for on that. It's just a component of our whole state aid package.
Okay, and is it helpful to us? Do we feel like the state is giving us enough? Do we expect more next year?
Well, now what they've done, and maybe this is what you're getting at, is they've looked at, they've re-looked at all the districts, and then there's components of how they give that aid also, which have to do with the wealth of the community. Is that what you're
Yeah, I'm just
asking?
wondering with all the stuff that's going on with the state, if there's something that we could ask for more from the state, or if we're getting enough, or if we're satisfied.
Well, nothing, and as we went over in the whole presentation, nothing that we do is basically 100% funded by the state. There's the different components. There's our general aid, there's the category-specific aid for special ed and transportation and so forth. The thing, I guess, maybe what you're referring to is there's districts who are maybe preparing to file a lawsuit with the state and so forth, and there's talk about how the wealth of the community is calculated, for example, how the properties are valued and who's doing more up-to-date valuations versus who isn't, and there is an equalization factor on the value of properties. It sometimes comes into play if you haven't done a reassessment in a long time. And some districts are disputing that, how those factors are determined in calculating your aid. There's the property value, and then there's the income off your tax returns that are coded to the municipal code that people file on their state tax returns. So I think that area, particularly the property valuation, is something that some districts are trying to focus on, as far as saying that districts who are receiving more aid, that their valuations may not be as accurate as some other, like Monmouth County. We had that whole program where everybody was brought up to market value, and it was done currently, and there's other areas that haven't done that, and these equalized values are supposed to even that out, but there's disputes on whether that's actually working effectively.
And Middletown does it. And Middletown, as far as, when she's talking about the equalization, Middletown, that's why you get the reassessment every year. 20% of the town is reevaluated. We always get reassessed every year, the whole town. But 20%, that's why some people say, oh, the assessor came to my house. 20% of the town gets reassessed, so in 5 years, 100% of the town has been reassessed. So we're constantly on a rotation with that. Middletown is right up to date on.
And then they talk about, potential impact of pilot programs and people taking properties off the rolls, and then real estate taxes not being assessed on those, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. But as we've said before, at this point in time, the formula is determined by the state, and we may agree or disagree with different portions of it, but until they change the formula, our allocation is going to be our allocation.
That 966 number.
I think that's,
That line, it's like 966,000
Yes,
a year.
yes.
And we did go back to the state when we lost the aid last year, as you know, and asked for
We applied for the
additional-
emergency
Yeah.
aid, right? And I think as we talked about last meeting,
When I say go back to the state, yes, we
right,
applied for the
right.
emergency aid.
And
we went
most
through the
districts
board,
were
the board was
denied for
aware of
that. There were only, I think, I don't know if it was 13 of them that, I think it was 50-something districts that went back for that. About 13 of them were approved for the award of this emergency
No, in
aid.
Ocean County, it was Lakewood.
That was it. Nobody in Monmouth County.
No one in Monmouth County, Lakewood and Ocean.
Do they just say that you're not paying, like, your community's not paying enough in taxes, or, I mean, do they give you any, they won't give you any more information than that? It's just basically you're not paying enough taxes, basically.
No, it's
When
not
you
about
apply
how
for
much
the
you pay in
emergency
taxes,
aid.
it's about your local fair share from funding your schools.
Right, in other words, how much your community's paying for schools. That's all they're really saying, is that you're not paying enough, in our case.
They say we're overfunded. That's
Yes,
what they're saying to us, that's why they're taking money back. They
Oh, no,
feel
no, I'm saying
overfunded.
in other words, we should pay more. In other words, they're gonna reduce it, assuming that we're gonna. we should
Well,
pay-
right, they're saying.
They're saying we should pay more, they pay less.
Taxpayers, yes.
We're
Well,
not paying
I should say
our
we,
fair share.
because
Based on our.
state
wealth-
money's our money
right.
too, but, yeah.
Based on our wealth factors, you know, right, and I don't have all this information in front of me, but if I remember correctly, you know, that what our state aid notice says is that what they're considering our fair share, or what our ability to pay, would be about $20 million more than what our tax levy is.
And they're not willing to come and take a closer look, other than just look at those numbers. Like, in other words, we can't have someone come, we can show them stuff, or,
Well, what would we show them?
I don't know. I mean, they're kind of just assuming every district's the same.
They're taking it based upon your property values and your income that's reported to the state.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any other processes they can do, or it's just basically.
I mean, they would have to change the formula for everyone. And, you know, the problem is that a lot of districts were awarded more money under this reality.
No, I get that.
Yeah, but again, this formula also comes from student enrollment. So
Some.
the decline, well, most of the districts that got the money increased, most of the ones that got the money taken away decreased, not all of them, but most of them, so.
Well, that's part of the reason why they're saying we're overfunded, because like you talked about a few minutes ago, when the aid was taken away in 2010, our enrollment was higher than it is now, and we were never really adjusted for that.
No,
is
that
what
was
the point is.
2010.
Yeah.
Ms. Minimus, I have a quick question under the curriculum.
Yes,
The participation agreement with the Monmouth County Art Center.
yeah,
Who actually pays that $806 per student?
The parents.
parents do.
Can we have that on here? Because normally when a parent or a student.
I think it does say on the
It does say.
agenda, it says while we approve the program, the funding comes from,
But wouldn't it normally just say cost to be bear by student?
well, it says while the district approves
You're
student
right.
participation, it does not provide funding for the program.
Right.
Right.
But it doesn't say who does.
So you would like to put on there
And
that
usually when,
funded by the
you know,
parents?
if we're sending the school students on a trip, they'll say cost to be bared by student.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's correct.
not a bad, not a bad idea, I think it's a good idea.
Yep, we'll make that change.
Maybe just add it right to the end of it. Funding will be provided by the parents. Or student, I don't know how you have to put that, if you put the parent or you put the student. You're right, because people look at that and think that we're paying for
Right.
those extra programs. Maybe. We went over personnel in the back. I just want to make sure, on next week's agenda, are we looking to have more retirements, resignations, and new hires, or are we clear with new hires?
No, we are in the committees at the building levels are in the process of finalizing interviews and demonstration lessons. My understanding is that I'm meeting with 3 potential new hires Friday morning, so they would be added.
Okay, what about transfers of personnel? Because it's blank on here,
Yeah.
approval of increased transfer, change in assignments.
Right, as it's draft, we've just left the
Right.
usual, and then if we need to add any, we will for the final voting agenda. If there are none, then we remove that category.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure if we knew there was any coming, that we should be looking.
I'm not
for.
aware of any transfers at this time.
Alrighty. Old business. Do you have any old business?
Kim, I have a question. Last year, we had an extensive discussion about sign language. I'm not putting you on the spot if you can't get back to me right now, because I know it's last minute. I had a parent call me today and ask if we were in the process of, or are we bringing sign language to the high schools?
Actually just came up during recent budget meetings in discussion with directors and principals. So it is an active discussion. There's been no decision yet.
I guess that's gonna be a budgetary.
It may be. It would require curriculum writing and staff.
First, I'd like to congratulate High School North for their play Clue. It was a huge success. I know I congratulated South last month, so this past weekend was for Clue. It was an excellent play. The kids did a great job. Dr. George and I had the opportunity to attend the senior citizen luncheon where they got to see the play afterwards, and it was really rewarding to hear some of our senior citizens that have grandchildren in this district complimenting the curriculum and the education that their students got in Middletown schools. Telling us what their career paths are, very impressive, correct?
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough. I think Dr. George is like the Pied Piper and everybody follow him. I just want to tell you how great this is, and they're so excited to come and see our kids perform. Some of them don't have any students in the play, but some of them do. So you get to hear them brag about the kids that are in the play, but you also get to hear them brag about the success stories that are coming from Middletown schools. So I think that kind of like made our day. Plus the MTEA provided lunch for them from Talercio's, and they were all well fed and happy as could be, and we were serving food to them. And it's a good way to connect with our senior citizens. We have a full house in here. I don't know how we possibly could get more, but I would love to see more senior citizens get involved in that, because the more you bring them into our schools, the more they see what we have and what we're doing, and showcase our students and their performances. So we might need to like add on to the library or have a bigger venue for lunch, right?
They'd even asked, I think they get 95 spots, right? And what we heard from others, they asked to expand that number, and we did. The MTEA supported it, so I think everybody who actually signed up was included this year.
Yes.
So that was great, and we talked about with them other potential events that we might be doing in the future.
Yes.
Like have the students do like
Teach them
tech
about
workshop, their phones and things. That was their idea.
They were
That was a
very
great
interested
idea.
in how to work
So
their
we're-
cell
yeah.
phones.
So we're talking about setting that up. Dr. Cartier
Yes.
was working on possibly setting that up with the tech club.
Yep, and we did that in the past. When we first brought computers into the school and this room was filled with them, we used to open up our library like once a month or once every other month and let the senior citizens and community members come in and teach them how to use computers. So now we're to the cell phone age, and they're real curious how to use those iPhones. It's kind of funny watching them try to figure out how to put them on silence when they go into the show. But it's a great community outreach for us to do that with them. And I think if we open it up, they'll come. Or if it is that our students go there, I don't know which is the best venue, but it was really good. And one other thing, in case, while we still have time, Middletown Helps Its Own has formed a real partnership with all of our schools. And our students are out there collecting food and toys and things for Middletown Helps Its Own. So anybody watching this video, if you'd like to make a donation to Middletown Helps Its Own, reach out to them. They take care of so many families in our district, and it would be greatly appreciated by them. That's all I have under old business. Anybody else? New business? Okay, with that, we'd open up the mic to the public on any agenda items. Seeing no one at the mic, I'd like to make a motion to close.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you for Christmas next week's going to be a little longer.
Well, next week will be a little longer, but we'll have presentations, so. Jim.
All hands on deck.
Oh, your wife's going Christmas shopping. Oh, okay, earrings. Nice earrings. But you should get them, get them
Yeah, because the kid can't make it.
nice and big.
Yeah, they have to let them use those starter ones for a while.
Hey, no, sir.
But, you know, that's my question. Is that
Likewise, what's funny is, so I didn't realize that the game of the century was like on the TV. So the next thing that might,
But I mean, also too, is there?
they realize it's like the best name, like, you know, the hottest.
Well, like, is there another way to get them?
Just let the conversation go. Like what? Like,
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't understand, 'cause I thought we get like.
I was trying to impress you with my knowledge of